Bisexual people, what do you find to be the difference between dating men and dating women? Girl here. You can literally walk up to any guy and flirt with them, and they will be so stoked. I could hold up giant flashing neon signs saying that I am flirting, and the woman I'm flirting with will just take it as a friendly compliment. Even in a gay bar, flirting with women is a mystery to me. Story 2. I'm a guy. Men tell me I'm hot and compliment my body in specific ways. I don't think a woman has ever said a nice thing about my body, at least not to my face. I've always assumed that I was just not that physically attractive, but I think it's women just don't think we need to hear it, or they think it'll go to our heads and we'll find someone more attractive or something. The most women will say is something like, "You're so big and strong." Yeah, so is a trash compactor. Story 3. Dating women means I never had to worry about emotional connection. It is very easy with women, at least for me. The sexual connection needed a lot of time though, and it gets frustrating at times. Also, one more thing which irritated me was that most women don't say clear yes, no, and speak very diplomatically. I also had to take the lead most of the times, which got a bit taxing mentally. Dating men was easier on sexual part, but connecting with men emotionally is way tougher, even though I'm a man myself. I shared the lead 50-50 here, so that was good. Currently dating a woman who says yes and no clearly, is emotionally open, gives gifts, makes plans, and I'm loving it. Story 4. On early dates, men will try to impress you while women will try to accommodate you. Men on first dates are often in performance mode. I've been on dates with men where I feel like a one-person audience at a stand-up show. If he's funny and charming, this doesn't have to be a bad time. If he's not, it's very painful or boring. It is often easier and less work to go on dates with men because he has low expectations that I contribute to the conversation or decide things to do. It can be very relaxing or even flattering to have someone carry you through an evening, trying different things to get you to laugh, showing you their favorite places, revealing a lot about themselves, expecting essentially nothing of you, except maybe cucks. However, even if he's very fun, I sometimes feel lonely on dates with men. Sometimes this performance includes him asking questions about me, but sometimes it doesn't. I've had many confusing interactions at the end of a date, where a guy who knows nothing about me, because he hasn't asked, tells me he's really into me and thinks the date has gone well. What he means is, I listened to him and made him feel good about himself. I think men often project a fantasy of who they want you to be onto you. It can actually feel really nice to get swept up in that, to forget who you are a little bit and lose yourself in someone else's imagination of you. It can sometimes feel like I'm matching his performance with my own performance. This means you usually don't have to be vulnerable and reveal yourself truly until later. Unfortunately, if you get too swept away by the fantasy, you can't be sure that he actually likes the real you. Eventually, you both have to drop the act. There's different problems with dating women. It's very easy to go on 5 dates with a woman and have no idea if you're into her or if she's into you because you've both been so accommodating of the other person. You haven't revealed enough about who you are and what you want. It's easy to get stuck in a pleasant coworker level of conversation where no one says anything that could be seen as a deal breaker, and no one ever makes a move. If a man is not doing it for you, it will likely be pretty clear from the first few dates. It's easy to waste a lot of time dating women you feel me about, because they are friendly and cute and unobjectionable, and there's no obvious reason to call it off. Women are also better at hiding their red flags, because women also see you as 50% responsible for the date going well and will ask you lots of questions about yourself. It's more difficult to hide from yourself or your date or disappear into a fantasy. It takes more effort and it also feels more vulnerable. She will see me as I am, and less aspirational. I will be his dream girl. This vulnerability can also become intoxicating in its own way, and good lesbian dates sometimes devolve into trauma-dumping therapy session, which can make you feel like you know someone better than you actually do. Story 5. There's a few differences that I've noticed, at least in my experiences. Women. Whenever I'm with women, either romantically or just hooking up, it's always softer and more sensual. The dates are more relaxed and the sex lasts longer and is seemingly softer. They take their time to get you to your peak and will always take care of you after the act is over. Men. More excitement, definitely. Dates can range from getting dinner to going out and doing random activities. I don't have to worry as much about what I'm doing either, as the ones I've encountered have been more go-with-the-flow types. When it comes to sex with men, it's always slightly faster, less emphasis on foreplay, depending on who I'm with. It's always rougher too, which isn't a bad thing. There's not as much aftercare after the sex, unless you're dating them. I have fun with both men and women despite the differences that I've noticed between the two. It's always something different depending on who you're with, never truly a bad thing. Nada. Forgot to add that I'm a woman, LOL, for the few who wanted to know. Story 6. I always use the campfire analogy when it comes to describing sex with men versus keks with women. For women, you have to build that campfire like you're in the Boy Scouts, adding twigs, then sticks, and finally logs. And don't bump the water bucket with your elbow or it'll fall in and you'll never get the fire going. If you're careful and you do it right, you can get the fire roaring. For men, the campfire is already built, and some guys just dumping lighter fluid all over it, while another guy throws a match and screams, "Yee-haw!" as the biggest fireball you've ever seen is ignited. You get a little singed, but it's worth it. Story 7. Everybody wants to get laid and be loved. Generally, men behave with more urgency about keks, and women start from hesitation. Speed and timing is everything. When men are attracted, they feel an almost immediate acute focus on locking down the keks. Women tend to want to savor those little morsels and give their desire more time to charge. That extra time lag for women is for A, building desire, B, overcoming anxiety. Those men will take you home and be in and out in minutes. Women will ravish you for several hours. Heck, even days. Look at the prawn they consume. AVG Man spends 7 minutes on Pornhub. Lesbians will eagerly sit through a full 2 seasons of sexual tension and yearning on TV, then obsess over smutty fanfic about it for years. On top of the pace of desire, there's also barriers to overcome. Keks is more vulnerable for most women, so they guard it more and feel comfortable exchanging emotion for free. Emotions are more vulnerable for men, so they guard that more while their keks is cheap. So they each start with what's easier for them, keeping the connection going while assessing whether they're game for the other thing. Of course, it doesn't always happen that way in clear-cut sequential order, but that's the underlying trend. Hetero couples are constantly compromising and negotiating that to a greater extent than homo couples do. Homo couples will tend to exaggerate each other's tendencies. That's why Grindr is like instant keks delivery, and lesbians are always grumbling that no one makes a move on this app. This doesn't mean that men want keks and women want emotion. It means that peak moments for keks desire happen on different timelines. Peak moments for emotional attachment happen on different timelines. Story 8. When it comes to the first few dates, most men always put their best foot forward and try to woo you, pay for everything, even when I insist on splitting. Try to do the princess treatment of picking you up and dropping you off, talk about interesting things about themselves or things they do, pay attention to you, but also your surroundings, etc. Women tend to expect you'll pay for things, or at least prefer splitting. They always ask first where you'd want to meet, but usually already have a preferred spot. Talk about social things, rather than stuff they do, unless work is particularly important to them. Have bigger reactions to what you talk about, ask more questions, and are hyper-focused on only you. Non-binary folks fall somewhere in the middle, but overall still lean towards their assigned keks at birth, or what they grew up being seen as. The longer you go on in dating them, I've noticed that women and non-binary folks air out their dirty laundry, red flags, and hang-ups way earlier. They talk about their traumas and their exes, which isn't always a bad thing in my experience, since I have a better handle of how to interact with them. Men are slower in that regard verbally, but a lot of it shows up in their behavior and thinking, which has been a bad thing more often than not. In terms of compliments, I get the same amount regardless of gender, but the context and content is different. Communication and understanding is generally better with women and non-binary folks, but emotions override it often. Solutions to problems are faster to reach with men. Keks is easier, faster with men, but I'm not usually attracted to most men, so that makes it less fun on my end, and I usually don't orgasm with men. Women tend to be more open and straightforward about kexual preferences, so it plays a part as well in how we're able to have keks, aside from the obvious distinction of multiple OS. Overall, it really depends on the individuals and how those differences, similarities, interact with you. For context, I'm a bisexual female who tends to be on the feminine end in terms of looks and speech, but on the masculine end in terms of behavior and thinking. I come from a fairly conservative country, so gender roles are apparent. I have a strong, dominant personality, so that definitely plays a part in the things I've mentioned. Story 9. Men are super easy to get to bed. All you need to do is say, "Hey, want a keks?" And about 95% times you'll be getting railed in less than 30 minutes. Men make tons of comments about face and body. Women will focus more on sense of humor or how smart you are. And the first "damn, you're hot" you hear is usually. Women are less forgiving. If you say something wrong, it's harder to undo. Women usually feel insecure about their bodies, but when you play it right and kill the insecurity, at least for that moment, they explode with that keks goddess energy. Most men complain about their penis size being too small. Doesn't matter if said penis is the size of my pinky or my thigh. Annoying as hell. Most women feel a bit more boring in conversations for me, like they don't enjoy talking about meaning of life and whatever, especially on first dates, lol. Story 10. In general, when I'm around interacting with other women, even just friends, acquaintances, I automatically take on a more dominant and masculine energy. I even notice I tend to use a deeper, more monotone voice with women versus men that's very unintentional. Men is opposite. I always feel more submissive energy-wise, like I allow them to take lead sexually. Personally, I like this more. It's less work for me mentally and emotionally to not be the dominant presence. Although I do feel like I'm more dominant and assertive in nature. I don't know if any of that made any sense. Story 11. Cis-man bisexual. At its worst, dating women is a living nightmare, where you are value judged like livestock on a lineup talking into the void. Once you do establish any line of communication, it's a minefield of ensuring them you aren't dangerous or crazy, avoiding even minor flags that will get you immediately dropped while balancing being interesting and relatable. Almost none of them will want to meet after a small chat, and you'll be having to chat with them on their schedule for like a week. Dating men is easier, but you're treated differently. Too many men who think they are above you on some imaginary lineup will tend to treat you like meat. Great for hookups, terrible for dating when you run into so many dead ends. Unlike with women, men also objectify upward on that attractiveness lineup, and you'll get boxed in by dudes that think they are uglier than you will talk to you as some kind of strange god figure. It's really weird. Meanwhile, if they think they are hotter, they'll just barely talk and just want to meet, to get their rocks off for a night and then drop you, only communicating when they want something. However, all sides will be quick to want to go on an actual meetup. Initially, after a few dances, women will very quickly latch on once they feel safe, and then they are very open and honest. However, they will need a bit to feel secure. Men superficially will be quick to act as though they feel good about the relationship, but in reality, they take a lot longer to adjust or be open. In the dates themselves, women are less likely to be conversationalists, expecting you to push the conversation and ask questions about them. In general, it feels women are always testing men. Once they feel comfortable, they start to more or less rule you out of the conversation, unless they want specific emotional info from you. In this way, dating women constantly feels like I'm being watched by them. As a bisexual guy, they are also constantly looking for signs that I'm really just a gay man in the closet, and they'll drop you for being feminine in any way so fast. Even if it actually makes getting along a lot easier initially. Men tend to be better about talking, asking questions back and forth, and giving you something to work with. And emo dates tend to go a lot more smooth, and I've never personally had a disaster first date with a guy. Excusing any hookup segment, as that's not really what this is about, and I've had bad experiences on both sides. They don't tend to judge, but they also don't tend to engage deeply. They are fully willing to just vibe with someone they barely know. This can make finding chemistry with a guy difficult, as there is always this misleading base level that exists of camaraderie that may not actually be meaningful or ever make you feel more comfortable and secure in each other. Story 12. This is obviously not an every case scenario thing, but I tend to have issues with women being very emotionally dependent, which isn't great for my mental health. And then men tend to be the opposite, and will even make fun of me for having slight emotions. Story 13. I'm a bisexual woman. Being a feminine woman interested in other feminine women, I end up dating men way more often because women aren't socialized to be romantic pursuers. Dating circles are also much smaller, and the community is tighter. It is near impossible to find a queer woman who doesn't already know has dated my exes in my small town. I've personally found my queer relationships to linger more, almost. Like, we've usually started out as friends, so afterwards, where the relationship ends, the friendship lingers, and there is no immediate cutoff. Oftentimes, it feels like the straight men in my life have only valued me as a potential romantic, sexual pursuit. Unfortunately, being sexually attracted to women and respecting women aren't mutually inclusive amongst men. So there has always been that present threat in my straight relationships I haven't felt in my queer ones. It is not impossible for queer relationships to be abusive. That just hasn't been my experience. Story 14. Men have almost no criteria to date women, and they use the first date to gauge sexual attraction alone. A lot of their stories feel forced, rehearsed, and there is often the expectation of sex, even if I feel no attraction building whatsoever. I often feel like they see dating as a tool to extract temporary pleasure. The same as going to a movie or playing sports, and if I don't fulfill it, then I failed their immediate gratification. I often wonder why men don't just hire hookers, because it would save at least half the women the ordeal of sitting through a fake date. I don't use Tinder. I've seen this attempt use women for casual sex ulterior motive on Date One on Bumble, OKC, Vegly apps. On a date with another woman, we will discuss our childhood, careers, goals, dreams, politics, all in 2 hours. Women bond emotionally on first dates in a way men do not. Women pay Dutch, as we are generally both poor, and a lot of first dates are a small cafe or coffee shop or hiking activities. We tend to really share our differences on date one, rather than lead each other on or waste each other's time, as men typically do. So I've met women who tell me on date one that they are anti-vax, or stay-at-home moms, or bi-curious. I've heard it all. We just share it up front, see if we match values, and separate if we don't. I think it's partly because men are socially conditioned to hide their feelings and appear stoic. Also, for whatever reason, almost all the men I've dated just don't place value on religion, politics, or family goals. They just want to find someone fun and kind and ignore all the flags that might be a mismatch. And then 6 months later, I find out we have nothing in common besides the keks and general enjoyment of movies together. I've noticed this with men I've dated in my teens, up until 40s. They just never outgrow this mindset of date for attraction alone. I've been on a few dates with men who were former alcoholics or addicts, and they are far more in touch with their emotions. And I'd say it's due to them sharing in group settings multiple times a week and learning how to share emotions in mixed groups with women too. But overall, I'd much prefer a date with a woman who I am more attracted to than all men, like 90% gay, 10% straight. And we both just bond on date one. It's just a better experience overall for me. Story 15. I only dated guys that were twinks and femboys. Actually, these people crave your pleasure, the least selfish lovers of all time, generally. Emotionally, these people have a hard time, but are often encouraged through praise and validation. But they will be stingy in this regard, because at their root, they crave only this, and that's what makes the other stuff so good. Women are fantastic, truly works of art. Even the busted crack whore from around the corner could be made into a diamond with less effort than you'd think. I've had very few women partners that I had hostile words or interactions with, but I've always been good with women. I grew up as the only boy born on my maternal side, 3 younger sisters. My mom, some of 5 sisters, same with her mom, and my great-grandma was one of 7 kids with 2 brothers that died, one in 1912 and the other JNWB2. My maternal grandfather was also the only boy in a house and family of women. So I never had a problem with understanding ladies. I dated all kinds, from free hippie spirits to conservative hard noses, and they've all had the same needs and general feelings. My wife happens to be the very best woman on earth, but women have to be balanced like a beautiful clock spring. You cannot force a woman to be wound any tighter or looser than she has been raised into being. I will say that a woman will give you her everything, but demand yours in return, and actually will be selfish at times. However, if you can love one and they love you back, it hardly matters. But remember, lads and ladies, she comes first. Story 16. My experience dating as a bi woman. Men consistently focus on showing you how successful they are with money or their job title, even if their lives are kind of falling apart in other ways. Conversations can be very one-sided and focused on themselves in superficial ways, like statistics on their life accomplishments. It's hard to get an idea of their actual values and feelings, because they're so focused on making a good impression. If I can get them to feel comfortable enough to let down some walls and hear about things they really care about, they apologize a lot for being passionate about the things they like, which is seemingly normal stuff. It's bizarre. I feel like a coach on some of the dates, ensuring them I'm not trying to trick or test them with any of my questions. I'm not sure if it's just their prior experience dating women, but it feels like for them it's a really high stakes, make or break type situation where if they say the wrong thing, they will get slimed in their seat. I couldn't imagine going on dates regularly in their shoes if that was their experience commonly. Women almost never talk about money or their work. It seems they're more likely to hide that kind of information completely in favor of anonymity, safety. They are more interested in getting to know you as a person and carry a conversation with you in a more balanced way. Significantly harder to meet in person. Both parties have to be very interested to get to that point after some texting. Despite what I've seen online where guys having poor luck with getting women to go on cheaper dates with them, all my dates have been very happy to just go on a walk in the park, at the lake, small hiking trails. Don't think I've ever started dating a woman with dinner first. It's definitely hard to tell, even on the date, if it's going well or not, though. I feel like sometimes I think the date went terribly, but they're eager to meet again. That's probably the queer thing, though, when we're clearly on a date, but I'm not sure if she's actually just being friendly. Story 17. Bisexual trans guy here. I've dated an equal amount of men and women in my life. Here's one that isn't about keks, craziness levels, and how it manifests. Now, I've dated a truly ridiculous number of crazy people because I had no standards in my younger days. The men and women of my dating life are equally crazy. I find that abusive women tend to be pretty upfront with their issues, in that they jump out almost immediately, but in a way, it's easier to overlook, and you end up like frog cooking. Abusive men, on the other hand, seem totally normal until one day a switch flips. Now, for the non-crazy and non-abusive people I've dated, I found that queer men who are willing to date me are typically more accepting of my transness. In general, it's hard to date men as a trans guy, but when it happens, they don't seem to care. When I date women, I noticed that it actually doesn't seem to matter to them if they're cool with me being a trans guy or not. Most of the women I've dated have said they were cool with it, and later expressed a desire to fix my transness, or requested that I begin dressing and presenting or identifying more feminine. Men are terrified of commitment. Women will unwisely push for it or jump into it immediately. I notice a lot of people discussing that women are more romantic and anticipate needs, whereas men don't. I can agree with this, but also noting that, in my experience, women anticipating needs is something that they quickly resent you for or grow tired of. For some, it feels like a sacrifice they do for you that you never asked them to do. Men, I feel, genuinely do believe that if you don't say anything, then nothing is wrong, and this comes off selfish often. But any man worth dating will adjust once addressed, while women typically don't stop and just do it quieter. Story 18. To summarize the responses: women, emotionally needy, more readily emotionally available, cryptic communicators. Men, less aftercare during afterkex, less judgmental, emotional pressure. Direct but blunt communication. Story 19. Basically all the comments are about kex. I was looking for real reviews. Is it charcuterie boards or pizza? Are we sitting on couches or lazy boys? Like, there are multitudes for dating different genders. And it seems like everyone is glossing over some big stuff, like hair tie availability, shelf spaces, closet room. Who has the better stocked fridge? Yard quality? Is anyone handy? Like, where are the real reviews? Story 20. I identify as pankexual rather than bikexual, but I have many experiences with men and women from when I identified as bi. Speaking as a feminine gender-fluid person who just accepts that I'll always be perceived as a woman, men, regardless of how mindful or aware they might be, often exhibit a more superficial, short, and Swedish kexuality. Physical, earthly attraction comes easily and is frequently the foundation of the relationship, from compliments on one's body to certain movements, turning them on. While this can be lighthearted and fun, it quickly becomes frustrating due to the lack of emotional and spiritual connection. It is far too common to encounter men who just need a motherly figure in their life, and it often feels conditioned, i.e., kex needs to occur a certain amount of times for love to be expressed. Despite these challenges, it often feels easier to travel, simply be together, walk on the street, and hold hands, especially given societal encouragement for women to be with men. Starting a relationship with a woman can be more challenging, but once mutual affection is established, deeper emotional and spiritual connections tend to come more naturally. It's easier to vulnerably explore each other's deeper truths, our families, and the world and universe beyond. If kex is part of the relationship, and many people can be celibate, believe it or not, something I've come to greatly appreciate, it often feels divine. The entire relationship involves much more intention and unconditional love. As a couple, it can be terrifying to travel together or simply hold hands in public, leading to a persistent level of anxiety, even in the healthiest of relationships. Of course, this all depends on the individual. Everyone, regardless of their kex, has their own personalities, perspectives, and preferences. Story 21. Bi woman here. I am feminine, but it's definitely in a less traditional way. So I guess I have a gay vibe because way more women hit on me than men. I am happily engaged to a woman now, but before I got taken, I did date both, and men are a lot easier to get a date with. There was more variety of dates with men. With women, I definitely felt I was doing most of the date planning and trying to make them fall for me. I definitely had to talk to women longer and put more effort into the dates as well. Men were definitely easier to impress or had the mindset of traditionality and wanting to plan the dates themselves. I felt majority of the time men wanted to impress me, and women wanted me to impress them, which I didn't mind because I'm a people pleaser. Lol, it was infinitely harder to find women on dating apps, W. Most of my success was in-person meeting or a friends of a friends or acquaintances. Oh, also, women I dated typically seemed to appreciate little spontaneous gifts more, and men appreciated time spent together more. Of course, this was just my experience. For context, I found myself leaning towards finding women more attractive. So most of my long-term relationships were women, and shorter-term were usually men. Of all the people I officially dated, women were typically the ones trying to get back together or reach out after a breakup and make it work. Men were harder for me to read if they weren't interested versus the women were usually pretty upfront with me if they weren't feeling it. Anyways, it's been about 5+ years or so since I've been on market since I'm getting married soon. Story 22. It's just my experience, but having dated a woman was damaging to my mental health. She was very emotionally dependent. There were issues with communication, passive aggressiveness, etc. My relationships with men have been way smoother because they're usually more confrontational and transparent. If they don't like something I've done, they'll tell me straight away and vice versa. That's one of the things I value most. Story 23. I'm still rather new to the whole bi thing, but differences are noticeable for me at least. For one, I've had far more success betting men than women. On the other hand, Kex with men for me, while fun, doesn't quite make me happy or content. I'm leaning more towards women when it comes to Kexual preference. So that could be why. Hanging out and dating is similar in many aspects, but men usually give more direct signs on what they want, as opposed to women who are diplomatic, playing nice, having expectations, like men approaching them first, etc. It's very taxing, to be honest, and I would love to date a girl who can clearly communicate things to me. As opposed to them, most of the guys I've had business with can be such drama queens, which I find annoying. Gay men can sometimes be better than women. Story 24. I want to preface that I'm not trying to generalize. This is my experiences with the specific men and women I've dated. These do not shape how I feel about dating, either, as my entire opinion could change by meeting someone new. So just take it as personal anecdotes. Lots of people have already talked about Kex, so I'll avoid that. Personally, I've found that if you click with a man, it feels very exciting and fun. Like when you meet someone who you know is going to be a great friend. I've laughed the hardest I've ever laughed with my current partner, who is a man. Also, they definitely get quite peacocky. They will try to impress you, make you laugh, etc. It can be very cute. With women, it's a lot more intense, and I felt a deeper emotional connection. The best and deepest conversations I've had have been with women, and they're amazing at really listening and understanding your feelings. However, in trade, I didn't feel like I had that same sense of laid-backness and just hanging out vibe. It felt a lot more serious. That's not to say it wasn't fun or I couldn't joke around. It's just that those moments were more sparse. The differences are beautiful and should be celebrated. Neither are better than the others. They're just unique, and I love that. Story 25. I've been in a relationship with 3 men and 1 woman so far, and most of them were a bit of a mess in the end, so take all this with a grain of salt. Dating men for me was way more relaxed in the sense that they fit my introverted nature better. They also didn't interpret the hell out of my words. The Kex was better with the woman, softer and more sensual as well as balanced, meaning it didn't end when he came. But the relationship with her was way more exhausting. Too many things made her upset or were read into my words or mimic I never meant or felt. It was so much drama. Everything was somehow my fault. Can confirm the needy thing as well. But the talk about feelings in general was way easier than with the men. Some topics, like period, wasn't such a hush-hush thing. That was nice. Much of the stereotype of dating a woman, and a Latina, I therefore can confirm, for her at least. She has lots of issues anyways, but I'm optimistic there are many who are different. I just wasn't lucky so far. In the end, I think it's less the gender than the character of a person that makes the difference. There are emotional, available, and needy men, as well as rough and egotistical women who can't talk about feelings at all. Story 26. Women are wonderful, much more considerate and sweet. I find it simpler to be at ease with women. They are so much more empathetic. Men are whores in a good way. They offer themselves up for Kex immediately, which is nice. I'm definitely attracted to men, so it was easy to scratch that itch. The best part is connection with either. If they are kind and we can laugh together, both are great. Story 27. Women treat dating like poker. A woman could be totally into you, but unless you stick your neck out to show you really like them, or want to escalate things physically, they will rarely let you know. They are also far more conservative about Kex. Whereas with men, it's literally, we both find each other attractive. Why wouldn't we have Kex? With women, you usually have to play this game where you have to pretend not to be interested in Kex, or even mention it for 3 to 5 dates in order to have Kex with them. It's the most absurd thing. Also with women, it's almost as if they go into a date looking for reasons to reject you. Whereas with guys, they are looking for a reason to connect. When I was on the market, dating a guy after going on dates with women for a stretch would be such a relief because they're just less guarded and open and upfront about their interest in you. Story 28. As a bi person, I've found that there are some differences between dating men and women, but it's important to remember that these are just generalizations, and individual experiences can vary widely. When dating men, I've noticed that societal expectations often play a larger role. There's a tendency for traditional gender roles to influence the dynamics, even if subtly. For instance, there can be an expectation for men to take the lead in planning dates or making the first move. Communication styles can also differ, with men sometimes being more reserved about expressing their emotions, which can require a bit more effort to ensure open and honest dialogue. On the other hand, dating women often feels more emotionally expressive and communicative from the start. There's often a strong emphasis on mutual support and understanding, and I've found it easier to have deep, meaningful conversations early on. The relationship dynamics can feel more egalitarian, with a shared responsibility for planning and decision-making. That said, these are just patterns I've observed, and every relationship is unique. The most important thing is to find someone who respects you, communicates well, and shares your values regardless of their gender. Story 29. Men are so happy when they realize your motivation is that you want their body, with a few exceptions I've encountered who were not pleased at all. I never figured that one out. Whereas women want to connect on other levels. And sometimes that's it. It's actually a lot of pressure. What if I don't have any other levels? Additionally, I have had little luck with women because 1, they're passive in bed, even more than you'd think. 2, they're not attracted to me physically or emotionally. I actually get how incel dudes feel about this. Although I have the option of just dating men, so I'm not really mad. Men are psychos though, often proportionally to how good they are in bed. So getting with them is easier, but then you have a psycho in your life. Half the relationship is hotcakes, and the other half is their horrible post-nut clarity, in which they point out everything wrong with you. Both genders seem to have wanted threesomes, which ended in drama. When women hurt you emotionally, it's unprovoked and out of the blue. Guys usually get a more obvious tood before things go to the bad place, but not always. Some are more like snakes without a rattle. Story 30. I've had several long-term relationships with both men and women. I found the biggest difference comes out during arguments. Men, it's like pulling teeth to really talk through the issue. Women will talk about it for 5 hours, flip it over every direction, pull out a microscope, and discuss until the issue is exhausted. And I'm exhausted. This is obviously the trend I've experienced, not the rule. My partner now is a man and a very good communicator. Story 31. So I'm not actually bi, just gay, but I have dated men in the past. Dating women is harder. We're so conditioned not to move first. My fiance and I only took 2 months to get our schmidt together and declare we were a couple, and we were de facto dating for about half that time, but we're just too nervous to talk to the other about labeling it LOL. I can't actually speak as much to the differences while actually dating, because the 2 boyfriends I had, I just dated because they were interested, and I was like, oh, they're pleasant and handsome, and I felt like I should, but I didn't really feel anything for them. I just know now that's because I'm only into women. I realized I liked women when I was 18, 19, but it took a lot longer to realize that I didn't like men because comfet is so pervasive. But the last boyfriend I broke up with when I was 22, BTW fiance, is actually bi and has dated men more recently than me. My last relationship with a man was 2007. Story 32. Dudes are simple, women are complicated and scary. As a bi person, it's far more simple to just go after men, but far more rewarding to go after women. Easiest way I can sort of sum it up is, if you've ever seen a dog that's gotten loose in an outdoor cat, petting that dog is gonna be super easy, most likely. They'll be happy to get pets and come over to you if you call, whereas you're going to need to do a lot more to get that cat to be okay with you petting it if it doesn't know you. You're going to need treats, the right smell, the right vibe. It's going to need to know it doesn't need to feel threatened, etc. While petting a dog is lovely and nice, it's nowhere near as rewarding as convincing that cat that you can be trusted. Story 33. I almost never receive compliments or praise from women. Men are less concerned with how much money I make, are more open to enjoying my hobbies, and generally find me more physically attractive. I'm more likely to get ghosted by men, but it's also far easier to get laid with guys. Men enjoy my sense of humor more as well. Men are also far more understanding and patient with sexual dysfunction due to being on antidepressants. I haven't dated another bi person, only straight women or gay men. At this point in my life, I consider myself to be bisexual but homo-romantic. I doubt I'll ever get into a serious relationship with a woman again, but the occasional date would still be fun, as I do find women really kexy and enjoy kex with them too. And there is something special about the way women laugh that really does it for me. Story 34. I'm bi with a preference for women, and I'm also active in the kink scene. My friends thought I was primarily into dudes because they've never seen me with a woman, lol. In my experience, men just kind of line up and you can pick one on your work break for later. Securing a date with women requires actually getting to know one another. I 100% understand why they'd need to know you better before wanting to go out. I ain't complaining, but practically I'm so busy with my job and am fairly lackadaisical about dating. I just don't devote the time. The result is 100% male dates for the last several years, lol. Story 35. It's not as simple as just men-women. In general terms, I've found straight women are a bit weird. You'll either click with them immediately, put them off immediately on the first date, or there'll be a real slow burn for them to warm up to you. It feels kinda artificial and performative. Gay men are a minefield. But if you can get past them being suspicious about you being bi, then they're generally fine. If usually even more catty and judgmental about people's fashion choices than straight women are. I've had LTRs with straight women and gay men before, so it's not all bad. But my preference is definitely for bisexual women and men. On average, I've just found them to be more chill, empathetic, and less likely to play stupid mind games with me. Story 36. Every girl that have ever approached me just wanted a threesome with their ugly-ass boyfriend. Like, bro, I'm not interested in him. It's always these beautiful women with some weird-ass dudes that have some girl-on-girl fetish. Story 37. 31F BI woman. With women, I can be sexually attracted to them based on looks alone. With men, I'm demisexual. I need an emotional connection to be sexually attracted to them. I don't really know why it's this way, but it has been my whole life. Story 38. Some broad generalizations here from my experience over almost 20 years dating both teams. This is my experience. Your mileage may vary. Terms and conditions apply. See in-store for details. Guys will never try to emotionally manipulate you. Girls don't avoid brush off your emotional moments. Guys always want to get down, rain or shine. Girls will make special efforts when they want to get down. Guys expect you to fit their routine and dislike their routine being changed. Girls expect you to do things for them and will show far less appreciation than they think they do. Guys are hurt most when you damage, destroy, throw away, dismiss, deny, reject something they have invested time into. Guys are hurt most when you damage, destroy, throw away, dismiss, deny, reject something they have invested emotion into. Story 39. I think it depends completely on the person. Men have been so dramatic, and I like that there's less affection between me and another male, but some men are very, very sensitive and cuddly. Some women have been very shut off, some open. The right people were ones that it was effortless. I like long-term relationships with women more, well, historically that's mainly, but there are different energies, and in the same way also the same. The way Kex is performed is the biggest difference, but I think generalizing would be lying from my personal experience. Story 40. Men are easy. You just have to give them time. However, it remains that way. The entirety of the relationship are interaction, surface level, and easy. Men typically don't try to get to know you. They're mostly just trying to get to bed. Women are much more difficult. You have to spend a lot of time with a woman who you're interested in, but the relationship is always more. Deeper conversations, more love, more non-sexual intimacy. I've found that with a lot of women, you have to have a connection for things to get sexual. All that to say, I have had both wonderful and horrible experiences with both men and women. I definitely enjoy both in different ways. Story 41. Answered this before. I've been in long-term relationships with men and women. It's very similar due to the type of person I am naturally attracted to. One notable difference: if a male partner initiates sex and I'm not in the mood, they simply masturbate and life goes on. If a female partner initiates sex and I'm not in the mood, I am perilously close to deeply hurting their feelings and perhaps destroying the relationship. Story 42. Women are way more open about their feelings with other women. I was having the exact conversation with my boyfriend today. When I was hooking up with women, they were way more vulnerable and a little more insecure, but totally open about it. With men, it feels jarring to express these things with them because my trust isn't really automatic with them. The Kex is all about them, generally. There's tons of differences too. My boyfriend doesn't understand why I feel the way I feel. But when I was with women, they were like, yeah, totally valid, I understand. And they did. It sounds like I don't love my boyfriend, but I do. It's just different, totally different dynamics. Story 43. Women are more vulnerable, but also have the capability to be stealthily manipulative. Women are in general more nurturing and anticipate your needs. Men are less vulnerable, little to no anticipation of your needs, and have bigger egos. They need well-placed validation that feels sincere. However, in turn, they're typically motivated to be protectors and want to fix your problems. Story 44. I've only ever been actively pursued by 2 women. Only one out of those 2 women were physically assertive with Kex. Every single man I've been with has been the first to make the move. I don't mind making the move myself, but there is a little more nuance with women. I've never been scared a man will reject my advances. Women, I'm a lot more tentative around. I spend more time on the fence trying to make sure they're actually into me, and we're not just chatting away like GIFs, you know what I mean? Story 45. From a queer woman, women are much more demanding of emotional intelligence and intimacy on average. Dating women is how I learned I have a disorganized attachment style and am fairly emotionally unavailable. The men I've dated never pushed my capacity enough to notice, but it became a huge issue when dating women. Story 46. I've dated both men and women, but I've recently found myself just attracted to men, so I don't know if I can give the best opinion. During the relationship, women are much more respectful of boundaries, feelings, while men seem to have a more dominant personality and think boundaries are meant to be broken, in my experience. And as someone who has broken up with both, men take it much better than women. There weren't many repercussions. While with women, I lost my entire friend group as they spread lies and rumors. Story 47. If you are nice to men, they think you are flirting with them, even when you very clearly aren't. If you directly tell a girl you'd like to sleep with her, she thinks you're being a homie and boosting her confidence. Story 48. The biggest thing to me is when I date a man, I'm also a man. I feel like dates and stuff are more 50-50. When I'm dating a woman, I feel like it's more my responsibility to make sure the date goes well. So that can be stressful. And even stuff like driving, most women I've dated make me drive everywhere. Whereas men, again, seems to be more 50-50. There are great things about both genders, though, for sure. Story 49. As a bi woman, I feel like my relationships with women have been more equitable than my relationships with men in terms of household chores. T hears less keks in my relationships with women than with men, but more orgasms. Men are almost too easy to flirt with, and women basically need you to say, "I like you, do you want to make out?" Men want you to laugh at their jokes. Women want you to make them laugh. Story 50. Woman here, the only problem I have come across is some women not taking me seriously because I am bi. I have actually been accused of, "You only want to have a relationship with me until you meet a man you like more," from a girl. I was completely head over heels for. Men weren't so self-conscious about me being bi, but some have been creepy in the sense of, "Oh, you are bi? Do you have a friend that likes threesomes?" Story 51. Flirting with a woman is like trying to solve an 8-dimensional Rubik's Cube. Flirting with guys is easy. "Hey dude, nice cock." Also, women neglect the male G-spot, which is fine. A lot of STR8s don't even know about it, but it is hard to give up pleasure because most women don't like butt stuff. So, yeah, attracted to men and women, but I think men are more compatible with my needs, LMEAO. Story 52. Most women are more respectful and open to the idea of someone being bi. A lot of men will see it as a sign they can be disrespectful or open the relationship or hit on other women because you think she's hot too. I just keep it to myself, and when I'm in a relationship with a man now, it's not worth it. Story 53. Men are more likely to respond to you if you're a woman. Every time I was looking for a relationship, I would look for both men and women. I always got more responses from the men than the women. Every woman I showed an interest in wouldn't even give me a response. Story 54. Women are more romantic, but you have to be way more direct when you're flirting, because they usually think other women are straight and just being friendly if you try to flirt. Men are a lot easier. Story 55. Women just seem to be so much more emotionally intelligent. I relate and feel heard. Comparing them, they notice the details to things, and just altogether, I have always felt more cared for on a deeper level. Plus, they're so soft and smell good. Story 56. Men are not as intimate in bed. Women are usually pretty engaged even after. Bigger guy, so maybe this is why. But no one ever takes control or plays the more dominate role. Ladies, please compliment the fact that I work out. Guys do it.